Hello, my fabulous fifth graders. All right, so we're now going to do an activity on the ocean tides. Who doesn't love the ocean tides and the sounds of the ocean tides? So peaceful. All right, so I'm doing this activity right here. Ocean tides is about drying out things and they get dried out from not being in the ocean tides, I guess. So if you printed this off and you read it through like I did, you realize that there seem to be some instructions missing because it says mix the salt. All right, so I kind of took a few liberties and I mixed the salt in here. And there's about 2 tablespoons of salt in this water. And this one is our fresh water. They are both 1 cup of water. I did that. And I colored my salt water so that I would be able to keep it separate. So I would know which one is the salt water. I also, sorry, my dog is barking, cut my piece. There's 16 pieces of paper towel here. They are all approximately the same size. I've numbered them all from 1 to 16. I've also put an S on the saltwater pieces just to double make sure that I keep them separate. Okay, so numbers 1 through 8 are the fresh waters, and numbers 9 through 16 are the saltwater pieces. All right. So, according to our instructions, we are to fold, crush, or wad the pieces into different sizes and shapes and leave some unfolded as well. And okay, so dip the first 8 into the salt water and the rest into the fresh water. Well, I kind of made it opposite. My 1 through 8 is fresh water and my 9 through 16 is salt water. Not a big deal. All right. Place some in the plastic bag and leave others in a sunny spot or in the shade. Okay, well, today happens to be a rainy day, so I am simulating the sun, which I will show you momentarily. All right, so I'm going to be dipping all of these in and we'll be crushing them, and I have them all numbered and we'll see which ones. All right, so dip. All right, and I'm assuming I'm not sure if I'm not going to wring them out very much, and this table is going to be wet and gross. So there's 8. The 4 of them I'm going to wad into pieces, and 4 of them I will leave unfolded, as it says. And this is my fresh water. Okay, and I'm just making them into let me move some of my stuff out of the way and I will show you. I'm just kind of laying them over here in here pieces there. Just not wringing them out because wringing them out would be, yeah, anyway. Okay, so there's number 5. All right, now leave some unfolded. All right, 4. It's gonna be a big mess, but that's okay. 3, 2, 1. All right, so there's our freshwater ones, and they're sufficiently wet. All right, and I'll do the same to our, I'm gonna move my paper here because it's gonna get wet. I want to make sure I can see the numbers. Here's our, okay. This is like so gross. But you know what? Who said science was neat, right? Who said science was neat? All right, so here's my wet nappies. There you go. And they're green, so we know they're the saltwater ones, right? So there's 4. that are folded. And here's 4 that are not folded. Well, it's, no, these are not Bounty this time. Unfortunately, I didn't have any Bounty in the house because someone who went shopping didn't buy the Bounty. Okay, they shall remain nameless. All right, okay, done. Now, I'm gonna pause the video or put in another clip and show you what all the different places that I put them. All right, so I will pause the video. All right, friends, so we have 1 and 7 in the freshwater and 14 and 11 in baggies. This is simulating the sun because I have no sunshine out right now. Got 5 and 9. No, I'm sorry, this is 15. And 9 and 1 and 2 and 6, I think. Okay, I've got some in a dark place under here. If you can, I don't know if I can lift it up. There we go. Underneath there, they're wadded up. Okay. And then my last 4 are out. They're actually outside here. Now, it's not a nice day out. It's actually raining, but I wanted to put some outside to give them a chance to dry out outside. All right, so those are our places. I'm going to come back and check in an hour and see how they're doing. All right, here we are after about an hour. You can see some of the drips from that got on the wood here have dried, but these are still very wet. All right, so there's our sunlight after an hour. I don't know, maybe it's just the way it's sitting. It looks like the fresh water almost looks a little drier than the salt water. Our baggies still look pretty much the same. Let's see if I can get underneath our hidey hole here. They are still very much the same, very wet, very similar. And then we'll run outside here really quick. Dog didn't like the door opening. And here's our stuff outside. Still very dry, or very, very wet. Very wet. Okay, I'll be back in 6 hours to check it out. Okay, so it's been about 6 or 7 hours. These 2 that are in our sun, they're completely dry. So I can't tell you which one dried first, unfortunately, because they're both dry and I didn't check them after 2 and 3 hours. But I don't know if you can see all the salt on the corner, on the edges here. Those are salt crystals. Now this is still wet, and so is the freshwater, but I will say the freshwater one feels a little drier to me, yeah, than the saltwater one. So does that mean that freshwater dries faster than saltwater? I don't know. But here are the ones in the bags. They don't really look like they're doing much of anything. All right. So if you voted for those to dry last, you might be the winner. Let's look under our... Ugh. All right, here's our moist area. These don't look like they're drying at all either. Those are still very, very wet. And underneath our bowl here in our dark area. All right, let's go outside and check on our ones that are outside. Okay, oh, look. Okay, so this is the outside ones. This is our freshwater one that was laying flat. Look how much drier it is. Oh my, I think we might be getting to a hypothesis here. Okay, because this is the saltwater one, and it looks almost just as wet as when I put it out here to begin with. But the, look at that. I'm gonna put this little rock on it so it doesn't blow away because it's gotta sit out here all night. Look at that. But the freshwater one is almost completely dry. All right, we'll see how they are now after 24 hours. I'll come back tomorrow. All right, it's been about 24 hours. This sunlight has been on for that entire 24 hours, so these are now completely dry. All right, those are all dry, and hopefully I didn't ruin the finish on that. All right, these are, look at these are still completely wet. So it reminds me of, you know, a jellyfish that has this protective layer. The ones that are inside, even the ones inside that are freshwater, they didn't really dry out either. But, so, you know, the jellyfish that have these that protective outer layer, and kept the inside completely wet and moist so they don't dry out. All right, here are the ones that were under our bowl in our dark, moist place. They are still completely wet, even the freshwater ones. This one I would say is probably the most dry of all of them, but they're still very, very wet. And let's go outside and see how those are looking. All right, so outside, this one that was flat is still it's completely dry now. The one that was all crunched up is wet, still very wet. And these two are almost exactly like how I put them out here. This one I would say is a little drying out, but would need some sun to completely dry out. So, all right, so we will be reviewing. So now I gotta clean all this up, and we'll be reviewing in a little bit what all this means. All right, this is take 3. Okay, so let's review everything we learned in this experiment so far. I am on page 95 of your science workbook pages. I didn't really go through it exactly the way it was, but you saw in the previous clips how I took those 16 pieces of paper towel and I put 2 fresh water and 2 salt water in one spot, you know, in paper, in baggies. I put 4 under the heat lamp to simulate the sun. I put 4 under the bowl to simulate our dark space. And I put 4 outside to just have another place to simulate it, to be in the regular air of the outdoors. So what it looked like to me was that the salt water, those paper towels dried out the slowest. And I think that, and we use salt in our foods as a preservative. So you can see also how salt keeps those animals as they are in those tide pools and they maybe got out of the water, keeps them preserved and keeps them alive a little longer than if they were just in fresh water and flopping out on the shore. So you can see how they were protected, and because they were in the salt water, and how the salt keeps them alive longer. The ones that were in the baggies, to me that looked like they were the jellyfish. It reminded me of jellyfish and how they have that protective outer layer, and how everything inside, so all the jellyfish's organs and things like that were kept protected, and in salt water also, even the freshwater ones were protected as well. But because they had that plastic outer layer, they were still protected. The ones that were inside the dome, inside the cool, dark place, those did not dry out either, because they were protected. So the ones that were really starting to dry out were the ones that were in the bright sun, that was pretty much 24 hours of bright sunlight. I left the light on that whole time. And then the ones outside, you notice that the saltwater paper towels that were outside were still wet. So they hadn't dried out completely yet, even though they hadn't been in salt water. So that salt water, that salt is keeping them and preserving them, to keep them alive and well, even if they're kind of out in the tide pools and not in the deep ocean. So this was an interesting experiment. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, I enjoy making them for you, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.